Okay, after 2 false starts, here we go. One thing I want to get out of the way here is I'm going to do that tiny bit of masking. I'm just going to mask this curl right here. It's just going to be a little hard to keep that, and I like it. So, a lot of dishwashing liquid, couple of big squirts there, and some clean water. That's enough. You can see about how much is there. Now I have a synthetic brush here that actually comes to a good point. It's just a little cheap craft brush from Hobby Lobby. I'm swishing it around in here because what I am doing is that I am taking a synthetic brush that could last me forever. I said it's cheap, but that doesn't mean it's junk. It's a synthetic brush, and I have washed it in this pretty concentrated dishwashing liquid mix. And what that's going to do is that's going to add a little extra coating to the bristles to protect it from the masking. I have a little bit of masking in a separate container, and this is PBO, P-E-B-E-O. And PBO drawing gum is what it's called, and I think it's the best stuff to work with. Okay, so I'm putting my brush down into it, and I'm only putting my brush about halfway down in there because it does tend to crawl on up, and you don't want it in the ferrule. So let's see. I had lifted a little spot right there. Okay, here. Maybe a little bit of the curl right there. And then it needs to come right here. Do something like that. I think I'll not connect it quite all the way. That's enough. Okay. Close it. You don't want any air getting to it that doesn't have to. So wash that brush out really good, and then wash it out in clean water. And that can last you forever. So you don't have to buy a junky brush that's made for this. You want a brush that will get you a point, that will get you the shapes that you need. You might have several shapes. I like a little angle shade or two out of this. But there's no reason to ruin them. Okay, so we're going to go back to working on the face a little bit. And one of the things that disturbs me about doing the videos like this is that the video makes some of these areas look stronger than they are. And so that can create some confusion. The fact that they look stronger actually makes them, if they look too strong on the video, that means they're about right here. Unfortunately, I can't show that. So one of the things is this nose still looks terribly flat. And there's several things a couple of things I want to do to it. And one is, there's a little highlight here. There is a lighter area in here. And that's part of what looks flat, is that there is no shape going on right here. So I'm just going to pull up a tiny bit of lifting. And one of the things I've noticed is that this paper has a lot more sizing in it, or it has a harder surface than it used to. And so it's a little easier to lift. Sometimes it'll lift a little bit when you don't want it to even. So I'm doing this very gently because much of anything could be too much. Oh, that needs to come over a little ways. I don't know how well this shows up. A lot of times some little subtle thing that you think is almost nothing will not only make a difference, Sometimes it can make a difference all the way across the room. And you never would have thought it would have showed up. Okay, that's better. Now the tip of the nose is just too much redder than this down here. And so what I was using was phthalo green to shade some areas. And so I'm going to take a very thin, tiny bit of phthalo green on my 1/2 inch brush, and I'm just going to pull in the tiniest bit. Oh, I can't tell that's doing anything. It probably is, though. Okay. This is one of the things about watercolor, is that it can go a lot duller. Put a little bit there, too. It can go, there, that's a lot rounder. It can go so much duller than oil or acrylic. And so the way you combine your colors is, it's easier to mix a lot of your colors because you're not dealing with white, which can really change the hue. But on the other hand, you have to learn how to work around things that will go dull and muddy. That's what you hear them talk about, you know, being careful that your watercolor doesn't go muddy. I've never heard anybody complain about muddy oils. Maybe they do, but I haven't heard it. All right, one other thing here is that the teeth are still too prominent, and they need shading. And the problem is that if I shade them with reds, that's too red, and if I shade them with blues, oh, I don't know. So I've got a little bit of ultramarine here. And I'm going to try a little bit at a time. That might even turn out to be enough. It probably isn't. I'll just add a little more there. But the ultramarine keeps them from looking too yellowy. At the same time, you have to be real careful when you put blue in the mouth. I remember one woman putting blue in a mouth once. It was a horror story. Okay, right here, this part of the chin is still a little too prominent. I've got it shaded with some reds, but I could really use some cools right there. So I've got my phthalo green again. Okay, this whole area is shadowed too, so just put a little bit more in there. You have to be careful because that's another reason that you see so many watercolors painting red faces, is that when you go and you take the red out, sometimes they just go dull. And so you kind of have to do this little balancing act. I'm going to take Quinn Rose, which is not as bright as I remember Quinn Rose. Okay, I'm going to take Quinn Rose. So these shadows here on the neck are way too weak. They don't hold up to what's going on in the rest of the face. So I've got some lines drawn in here. I don't know if you can see them, but I've done a little on this before. I think all of this, actually, I think I'm going to have to combine a shape and then break the shape up some more later. And you know, sometimes it's not what you put in, it's what you leave out. So see this little line right there? Okay. It's an area where I didn't put the red in. Well, that's going to indicate a wrinkle. So, in fact, if you look at wrinkles, a lot of the time what you're seeing on the wrinkle is more the highlight, where the light's hitting the bottom or half of the wrinkle, than it is, I can't talk, than it is about a dark line. And that's one of the reasons when you just put in dark lines for wrinkles, which if I had any wrinkles, I'd show you, but... Okay, so we've gotten that a little bit darker. Oh, I think this has got to go. darker. And actually, that's got to go darker too. I'll just pull a little less color, but I'll pull a little color down in here. And then what we'll do is we'll darken the dark spots some more with some phthalo green in a few minutes. Here, let's make another little highlighted place by making a shadow under it, and there you see a wrinkle. Okay. Now the eyes need to get some darker shading in here. And I think I've got enough reds and phthalos on their own here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a dark. I've got what I was using on some horses right here. So I've got, can't talk. I've got Quin Burnt Scarlet and Quin Gold, a little Quin Gold, and then let's pick up some Prussian Blue. That's not very pure. So what I've made is kind of a icky brownish something. Yeah, that'll work. Well, I don't know. I think I want a little more red in it. And this is out of Transparent Colors. So let's see about putting a little more shaping in these eyes. Do you ever start to paint and you suddenly feel like totally lost? Like, what am I doing here? And I don't know how to do this. And maybe I ought to put it off till some other day when I feel smarter. Man, that happens to me all the time. And then when I get started, it all starts coming around. I think sometimes you just have to have the activity going on before you can really make it work. You see, I'm softening some edges here. This paper lifts really so easily that you can fix a lot of problems if you're just gentle with it. The other problem is that if you overwork things with your brush, you just wash that work right back up. And what happens when you wash it back up is you don't really get it washed back up. It winds up blending in with the other colors that you've got, and then pretty soon you have this muddy pond scum. Yeah, let's call it pond scum. Where did I hear that? Okay, so this eye also needs some shadow. Because I am wearing brown eyeshadow in that picture. I haven't put eyeshadow on in weeks. It's so sad. Okay, a little shape there, a little brown there. You know, it wouldn't hurt to put in a little bit of eyebrow. Well, I'm trying to pick a brush I want. Here. Here's a number 4 round. I forgot to shut my phone off. I'll put a little burnt umber into this other mixture. The problem with burnt umber is it washes up real easily. So unless you're nearly through with an area, you really don't want to use it. Let's see. This gets lost under the hair. If I ever get it out there. I just wanted to see some eyebrows. Remember, the eyebrow on this side isn't going to come over near as far to the center of the nose as that side. Because of the angle of the head does that to it. Drop a little water in there and give it a little blot so it kind of breaks it up just a little bit. Okay, that's a little better. I don't like this area down here, and I've got hair that comes down in here over it, and I prefer that. So I'm torn here. I could use some white ink and do a mixture, but it might be more trouble because it won't match everything else. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do a little lifting over here. So this will have time to dry. And like I said, this paper is lifting so easily. But you really have to be careful not to put down heavy strokes or do too much blending. I think that that will make me happy for now. There's going to be some background showing through the hair. Okay. Now what? This side of the head needs more shadow on it, I think. I don't think I've ever gotten enough in here. So one of the things I did, I checked before, here and here. Those are pretty close in value. This one's a little redder, which is what I want. If we actually used, this has got plenty of black ink in it, and if we were using black in the face, this would go really, really dull because it's watercolor. So what I want to check is this area of the cheek right here. Oh yeah, see, that's got to go darker. Look at the difference here. So I need a wash along here. And to do that, how do I want to do this? I'm changing my mind as we speak. I've got that mix here. And I've got some raw sienna, which I would never put on my face, not at this point. But I'm thinking hair, because as I'm doing this shadow, I want to begin to deepen the hair. And as I'm deepening the hair, I'm going to bleed it into phthalo green. That's the plan. The plan could change. Okay. A little bit larger flat brush. This is a 3/4 inch. Now this doesn't look like my hair color at all. Okay. We will be adding a glaze to this yet. In fact, we'll be adding a lot to it yet. Oh, well, what about this area right here? Should I go ahead? This is going to contrast with that pink in the skin and look really strange. Just know that this isn't the final result. If it was, I'd pull my hair out now. I've got a little more burnt umber in this little bit right here. I'm really not going to put detail in here yet. But I wanted, okay, let's pick up the phthalo green, still real weak. And I'm going to run the phthalo green back up in here into the hair. I should have dried that. So yeah, I've got a little bit of that color coming down in here. This is when I panic because this is a video. And I'm this far along with the piece. I can't start it over. Y'all already have the other. Oh, okay. Yes, this is good. This is actually good. And I like that I've got a little bit of that other mixture coming down in here. And we'll just pull it out over here and let's go ahead and what this is the beginning of an area for some hair. May seem a little strange right now. It does to me. Panic. Maybe just, you know what? I think I'm going to take a little more of this mixture and I'm going to put it right down in here. I never liked that spot. I need to dull it down. Again, raw sienna is one of those things that comes up real easily. And so, now where does a shadow begin and the hair leave off? Well, we'll never know. We need a shadow on this side of the head. Make up some kind of stuff. We just need a shape there. Probably came over too far. I don't even know if I'm going to leave this shirt this color. Okay. Let's take a break and dry that. Okay, I'm back. So I have a situation here that I like, that I'm not supposed to like. Let's look at this first. Did I get this dark enough? Well, that's dark enough to suit me. Okay. And it's sort of a backwards looking thing here, in that I have more reds down in here on the neck, on the shadows on the neck. Excuse me, I have a barking dog. Sophie! No, Sophie! That's funny, she's just learning to really let out a bark. Okay, so you can see these areas are really reddish, and then this is sort of a greenish tint along here, which I like that green. Okay, and I like the red. It's sort of backwards. It's not really maybe how it's supposed to be, but I think I'm gonna keep that. I don't know, this has to get darker, and that may be a problem. So here's what I would be doing if I wasn't on camera. I'll just do that. I would be playing with that. I know this needs to get darker here and right up under there. A little bit of shadow. And remember, water neutral brush. Soften that edge, and we'll see what that does when it's dry. Maybe a little darker spot there. So I may put a little bit of green on these, but I will, so little that the red will dominate. Because I just like that play between that kind of greenish gray. and the reds. Now, one area that does bother me, the side of the face being like this, that's fine with me. I think the ear should be redder. And here, the ear is no redder than the side of the face. But I think it needs to be here. So that's another thing where it's maybe something you've learned, or it's just a personal preference and you don't know maybe until you do it if it's really going to work out. Yeah, I prefer that. And again, water neutral brush. I'm not going to say that every time I do it. We could have a teeny bit more shadow right there. And I may just keep that just like that. Not soften anything or do anything to it. I may just leave that just like that. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to play with the hair while this dries and I decide. And the other thing is maybe I'll decide in part because I need to see some darker hair here. By the way, just a tiny bit more of the green, the tiniest spot of the green. Yeah, that was, you know what, I think I'll leave that with the hard edge right there. Well, maybe I'll soften that spot right there. Okay, yeah, that's better. Okay, I want to make sure my camera's on. Yep, it's working. Okay, so let's, I don't think this is going to be anywhere near dark enough yet. What do I want to do next here? I think I'll go ahead and I'm going to put, I need a bigger brush. Maybe this is a little too big here. I'm going to put some more hair color in over here, just a little bit. I'll use this mixture, what's left of it. There's not a lot, so that's dried in there. Okay, so here we have, now here it's light in front of a dark background. Here I've got a light background and I'm just going to work like that background's going to stay light. So something a little like that, and then you can see it about here. Let's make a little more of that, a little more solid. So if I had to do over again, I wouldn't make these lines that dark. We talked about that before. I did that partly so y'all could see the edges. Maybe I did it because I wasn't thinking. Now, one of the things I've noticed is that people have a tendency to, when they get on hair, just find a shape and just repeat the same shape over and over. And I'm not going to claim that I don't do that too, but it's not a good idea. You need to pay some attention to it. Now I'm picking up some brown here. So I'm looking at where those darker areas are. And again, this just isn't the right color, particularly not with this red skin. This really looks bad. Soften some edges there. Let's see, let's pull up a little more in a few areas. And I may put some more in later. So you're wondering, what is she going to do about this area right behind the glasses? Well, the glasses bring everything out of focus. And part of what you see is background color through there. And this feels more like a solid. And I kind of like that because we've got some nice little geometric things going on in here. And I would like for that to be another part of the geometry. So I guess I'm going to treat this though as though it's smooth. And if I get the hair darker, which I may leave this just like that, except I'm going to drop a touch of green into it to make it a little bit different from the rest of this. So when I put the glasses, see, that makes that interesting little shape in here. And see, I've got this nice little triangle here and this hard edge little shape there and that little shape here. And there's a pretty strong edge shape here. That's what I like in an older adult. I think it gives, working with someone older gives you a chance to have a little bit of fun in a way that you might not would do with a younger face. Be careful when you're doing this that you don't turn the hair into just a bunch of little lines. A lot of people want to make like they're painting individual hairs, and I've seen individual hairs painted in some gorgeous paintings, but this is not that kind of realism. And if you suddenly go into these just kind of, do I dare say it, stupid strokes, it'll just hurt your effect. So let's put a little more there. There's definitely darker hair right up in here. Because that's where it's been recently dyed. Oh, the color between, see, that almost looks like a purple next to this yellow. So we're definitely going to have to do some things here. Let's find some individual shapes. Sometimes I will take like a little V and then soften this part. If I was going to give you a formula, I would say that that's the closest thing I've got to working with a formula here. There's a dark area down in under here where the hair is pulled back. And this burnt umber is apt to try to come up when I do this next thing. So I think I'm going to pull off of this and go to our next wash, and then we'll come back and put more of this in. All right, let's dry this and do something about. I don't know if I will leave the skin this purple once I change the hair or if I need to bring more yellows into the skin. And I'll decide after I do something to the hair. Have to dry it first.